All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Tim Sharkey, and I'm with Chicostart, and this is one of our weekly webinars. And this is a bonus episode this week for Global Entrepreneurship Week, put on by the Global Entrepreneurship Network. All around the globe, this week, 16th through the 22nd, it's Entrepreneurship Week. We're all over the world, each different startup facility, each different small ecosystem are putting on and sharing their local entrepreneurship. What's going on at the colleges, what's going on at the community colleges, what are going on in the startup facilities, the incubators, the small business development centers, counseling, SCORE. So all around the globe, people are getting together and sharing what's going on in their region, and this is one of our bonus episodes and that we've reached out to do. And today we have Zac Van Roekel. He is a Butte College student, and he is an IT security major. That's what he's going to be going into. He is recommended by one of our past lecturers, Edward Miro. So we want to appreciate him help promote one of his students and help us understand cybersecurity and staying safe online. And that's what today's topic is going to be about, is cybersecurity and staying safe online. And we have Zac is going to walk us through some of the things that are going on right now and items that we should think about and keep more in the forefront of our thinking as we get online, as we are online more and more. And we're sharing more and more information. We're jumping on into these meetings on different platforms. Google Meet, 8x8. There's just so many. Joomla. Each one of them has different security protocols, and you don't know if you're jumping onto someone that has a free version, an enterprise version, a security-based version, where that information's going, who's getting into your system from the backside. I don't know. Just having an online presence and making sure that you keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, especially with everyone having their kids online. Who's watching them? Who's on the other side of that camera nowadays? So just thinking about cybersecurity and knowing that the other person who's creating the events or launching these particular webinars or putting on classes may not always know what's going on themselves. So as a parent, as a business owner, as a spouse, as someone in the community, you should think about these items and at least jot them down and look into them, because the world is getting more and more breached from different sides. So it's good to keep yourself safe. So I want to appreciate Zac's time today and sharing. And these are just some of the things I've been thinking about lately. So I asked Ed if he could help us out, and he recommended you, Zac. So let's go over some of this stuff. Let's see if you can share your screen, and welcome. Thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the great introduction, Timothy. And let me see if the screen share will cooperate with me here.
And I'm sure I'm going to jump in and ask some questions as you go.
No problem. And then, I'm always open to any questions anyone might have. Are you able to see the right screen here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Since you already did the introduction, my name is Zac Van Roekel. I added an email down at the bottom of zacvrit@gmail.com in case anyone had any extra questions. But we're going to just go over some basic things about staying safe online. Some things you probably already know, but some things never hurts to go a little more in depth in. So for today, we're going to be going over passwords, multi-factor authentication, social media, which kind of ties into the social engineering category, as well as backing up all the data we have, all our passwords, important pictures and data, and maybe some Q&A at the end if anyone has some questions. So first up, we have passwords. The big thing with passwords is there's always been the long-standing battle between complexity versus length. Originally, a lot of people thought it was more important to have exclamation points, numbers, uppercase, lowercase, and all those. But lately, it's actually changing a little bit more where it's better to have longer but more memorizable passwords. Yes, for instance, if it's an 8-character password, and you had all the choices of upper, lower, numbers, and characters. There was 945 unique characters to use. And while that seems like a lot for an 8-character password, most people can crack that in less than a day if they truly felt the need. But adding just 2 extra characters to make 10 total would jump from just 6 quadrillion choices all the way up to 144 quadrillion choices with just 2 extra letters there. And the big thing is, rather than doing exclamation point, asterisk, 1, 2, a word, and all these weird symbols, you could do something much simpler of, say it's a Google Mail account, you could do I less than sign 3 Google Mail accounts for I love Google Mail accounts. And while that's a long password, it's pretty easy to remember if you know your scheming. That's one way to just kind of explain, rather than doing random letters and numbers, do something you can remember, and it'll be generally more or stronger, rather than something you'll have to write down, put on a post-it note, right on your computer. And kind of ties into the next one of different passwords per account. I know I'm guilty of it, most of us probably are. You found that one password you can always remember and it works for most websites. But the problem is, if you're using the same password for everything, at some point, if there's a data breach, you're going to lead into what's called credential stuffing. What that is we even had it with Equifax, you've probably had it with some accounts you have on multiple websites. What this is somebody will hack in, they'll get usernames, emails, passwords, sometimes they'll even get addresses, names, and if it's bad enough, I think with Equifax they even had social security numbers of some people. And what the credential stuffing means is they'll use that same username, email, and passwords on multiple websites. And it's sad to say, but you'll probably notice at some point, maybe it even happened to you, where you'll have an alert or somebody changed your password on an account and you had no clue why. Generally, credential stuffing would be the most likely choice instead of just guessing, since there's so many choices to guess unless they already have the info. And so with that, there is a website called Have I Been Pwned? And it's actually a pretty cool website because you can go on there and type in your email address and it'll tell you what breaches you've been in and when they happened and all the data that's in them.
What was that called again, Zach? Have I been what?
Have I Been Pwned?
Pwned.
PWNED.com. And I know even for myself, I think the email I've had for the last 10 years, I think it's been in 18 different breaches. And so it's one of those, it's going to happen at some point no matter what you do, unless you just don't use that password on something, as well as the email address. And so thankfully, after starting college, I started to learn a little bit more about how easily some people can break into accounts. And now password managers are becoming a little bit more popular. So with that, the 2 main ones I know of is LastPass, but the one I prefer is KeyPass, just since it's an open source program. And what they do is you'll have a single master password. So as long as you can remember one strong password, it'll remember your passwords to your email accounts, your Facebook, any of the websites you log into. That way you only have to remember one password instead of hundreds for all the different websites. And the cool part about it is most of them can actually generate passwords for you depending on new requirements. So say a website wants a symbol and a number in an uppercase, you can tell it to include those and tell it the length. Because I found out a lot of websites, it seems like 26 characters is the maximum. And so what I'll do is have it put all those requirements in, make the longest password possible since I'm not having to remember it. So instead of being something as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ABC, it can do random letters and numbers for 26 characters to where even I won't be able to guess it. Which does lead into the important part of you'll want to at least remember that main password, because if you lose that, it's going to be a long time of resetting passwords, and that's never a huge fun ordeal. And then up next, which These all kind of tie in a little bit together would be multi-factor authentication. And we've all used multi-factor authentication. If you logged into Facebook, you get an SMS or a text message alerting you that somebody's just logged into the account and wasn't you. And with that, you'll click on it, and generally it'll have you say it was you or it wasn't you. And if it wasn't you, they'll tell you change your password because somebody's trying to break into it. And while this is well and good, there's a big issue with that just because people are actually able to do what they call SIM swapping or SIM jacking. And all that is if I know your phone number, what your name is, and things like that, I can call up Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and as long as I'm pretty good at social engineering, if I can make them believe I am you and that I just need the SIM or your phone number ported to a new phone number, I can now log into that email address. So if you had a Google Mail and that's the only protection you had with a weak password, they can actually steal your phone number and get that SMS text they need to log in, or even worse, your bank accounts. But thankfully, there's a couple alternatives. One I use just because it's free and it's good to have in general is Google Voice. What this is essentially a secondary phone number that you can get for free from Google. And it'll work just like a normal cell phone number. It'll call, it'll text, you can receive calls and texts. But the big difference is there's no SIM card. So instead of being able to steal it that way, they'd have to know your Google email address as well as the password. So it's a little bit more protected than the regular SMS texts. And then even stronger than that, you'd have authentication apps such as Authy, Microsoft, or Google Authenticator. And with these, there's a specific app downloaded onto that device. And while it's a lot better protected since you'll have not only no way to steal it unless they physically take your phone, which you hopefully have a fingerprint at the very least or a strong password on. The only problem with that is they'll give you some backup codes which you'll have to store someplace safe, because if you lose your phone or your phone gets destroyed, you'll have to find a way to get back into it with those backup codes, or a hassle of trying to convince them you are who you say you are. So it's not always the most preferable of somebody who's losing their phones every other week, but it's definitely better than SMS texting. And then this is the big one that I've seen a lot of people do is social media. Everyone loves posting when something new and exciting happens. Say you got a new job and they just gave you your new badge and your work keys. And while that may seem innocent, if you're posting that online, hopefully your company has policies against it. Because something as simple as a picture of your name badge or your ID badge, somebody finds it online, they can easily make a duplicate and change the picture and the name to make it look like somebody works there when they don't. So that kind of leads into an area where people are now able to get in the building if they didn't necessarily belong there, and they may be up to nefarious deeds.
Nefarious deeds.
Exactly. And it's one of those, a lot of people always look at it as, well, my business isn't banking, it's not healthcare, nobody will ever try to sneak in. Some people do it just for the thrill to see if they can, which is even worse since it's somebody that doesn't even know what they're trying to do. It's almost a kid in a candy store if it works. And another huge one is keys. Say you got your new apartment and you post keys online. To most people, you can't do anything with a picture of keys, right? But if you're a decent locksmith, or you even just have a little knowledge online, you can actually find ways to where you can buy a blank of that key and cut it to where it'll work on that lock purely from a picture. And so that's one that kind of shocks people, that it's as simple as a single picture can get somebody into a house or a building they shouldn't be in. So it's kind of shocking how much people post online. I know I've seen it before where you can go on Facebook for 5-10 minutes, and you'll find out somebody has a new dog, they've got a new TV, or just all sorts of information that unless somebody truly knows you, there's no real need for them to know about it. Especially vacations. Everyone's excited to take a vacation, right? But the thing is, when you're on vacation, who's at your house? So if you're not actually home, and you're posting pictures from Hawaii, New York, or anywhere else, if somebody is on your friends list that doesn't necessarily have your best intentions in mind, all that might show them is it's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because now they know no one is home or somebody's just checking in periodically. They know when my family and I go on vacation, we'll have somebody come in, check the mail, maybe hang out for an hour or two, but nobody's there all night and all day. So it's just one of those things to kind of keep in mind and make sure you're thinking about your security online as well as offline, because the most minute details can actually cause a huge amount of issues in the long run. And on that very same note, you have surveys on Facebook. I'm sure we've all done them. I know I've done the Harry Potter house just to see if I was a Slytherin or a Gryffindor. And while that looks completely innocent, you'd be amazed at what some companies do with any information they can find. If they find out your favorite color, when you were born, or any information like that, if they can tie it to an email address or anything like that, they can sell that just as a spam collection, where now somebody has your email and they can start sending you Harry Potter fan clubs or things like that, where all you did was fill in a survey. At the end, they'll ask you for your email address and things like that to be able to get your results. And it's just a way for somebody to make a quick dollar, since you're giving that information up without even thinking about it.
Do you think they sell it? So you're saying doing the surveys, putting the information, like you're saying, you put your email in there. Do they turn around and sell that information? That's where you start getting a lot of junk.
You know, the junk email comes from so many different categories, where some of it's people just send it out and they'll wait till somebody clicks on a link and finds out, oh, this email address is actually working. So then they'll start spamming you with more things in hopes that something will happen. But definitely, if you're willing to fill in a survey online, they're going to know you're going to fall for something at some point. And, well, it's mean to say, most people will do them and think they're a harmless thing. But if you can get hundreds of millions of people to do it, even if it's just 2,000 people and you can sell it for 20 cents per person,
yeah,
somebody's making enough money to make it worth it. As well as once they find out things, which actually kind of leads to the next category of social engineering. So while we don't think of things combining, most people will probably use some significance in their life for a password.
we have a few. Good morning.
Probably most everyone is, because it's easy to remember. Like I said before with those long passwords, we're having to write them down to remember them. So if we can remember the last 3 pets we've had, we can put their names in chronological order, and we'll have a strong or a long password that's easy to remember. But maybe you filled out that survey of what was your favorite animal's name, or your favorite car, what high school you went to. All that's information that can lead up to somebody being able to break into your accounts. But one of those surprising things that's something as simple as your pet's name from 10 years ago and your birthday could be your password on some accounts. But I think that's why some places are now requiring a symbol as well. There's no real symbols that most people use in birthdays or pet names. It's kind of that little bit of a barrier to keep most people safe. But then with the phishing emails, these things are a little bit trickier, and I know I even had some at my work. Thankfully with us, we've got a little extra protection, because a lot of people don't realize you can actually make an email look like it's coming from someone who it's not coming from. So say my email wanted to make it look like it's from Google, you can make it look like it's coming from Google at itsupport.com. And the trick is, if somebody doesn't actually have the itsupport.com, you can make it seem like a legitimate email. And with that, you'll see, oh no, my Google account, somebody tried to log in, let me click this link real quick to change the password. But what it's actually doing is bringing you to their website, where you're going to type in your old password for some odd reason and type in your new one. And now all the hackers need to do is keep that information and try it on not only that account, but all the other accounts.
Go all the way through. Yeah.
But I know, like with my work, I got a phishing email just 2 weeks or so ago. But with us, it actually has a block above that's highlighted saying, external, this email originated outside of your company. Please use caution when opening links and report it to IT as suspicious. Because I know mine I would have most likely clicked on if I hadn't had that. Because it was mentioning something about COVID cases and things like that. And it's one of those things of even the best people in IT have clicked on a link and fallen for it. Whether anything bad came of it, it's a completely different thing. But even clicking on that link might let them know this email is alive and working. So it starts sending all sorts of spam. If they clicked on one link, they'll probably click on another.
Yeah, I can see that, especially when you have a big inbox just full of stuff and you're just trying to click through. You're just trying to click through your emails. And like, okay, what's this? What's this? You're looking at it. You're just opening, and then you're like, oh. Because you don't always go and drop down and see where the email address is coming from. If it's semi-familiar, you're like, what's going on there? I totally see it. I mean, luckily, I know I'm going to say it hasn't happened to me in a long time, but when I look at my inbox and there's 40, especially with Google, you got all the different tabs, social, updates, forums, you know, the junk one, and then you have your in one. I mean, it's over 200 emails a day. So that's crazy.
The big thing is there's just so many of them that there's a good probability at some point one of them will trick you. But I know when I was younger, I used to play RuneScape, and I'm still 10 years later getting fake emails about it. And the thing is, they look completely realistic because they'll know what your account name is. And then they'll say your backup or your email address has been changed to this email. If it wasn't you, click here. And by all means, I even had to Google it to find out if it was a common thing, because the email address, when checking down the drop down, it looked identical. It was just a single E dot before. It's hard to tell because some websites will use that, or they'll put their name and add a 1 or a 2 at the end. And so it's definitely one of those things that nobody should feel guilty for if it happens. And if you're working in a company, it's almost always better to let IT know before something happens than after. Because you might have clicked it and thought nothing bad will happen, but there's no need to tell anybody. But then you find out that single click may have let a hacker be able to do something or find out some information from that little bit. It's always better to let IT kind of inspect it and find out if it was just somebody probing you to see if something will happen and if you're willing to click it, or if it's somebody more advanced that can actually do something with just a single click.
Yeah. We had one of our members, he was doing some prototyping here in the office with our 3D printer, and he was dealing with the plastic mold injection company in China. So we were helping him just make sure that the prototype was working, it would fit into whatever was going in here. So they shipped over the item to him, and they're having the discussion on the cost. Somewhere in between that, either on the Chinese side or here, it got intercepted, and someone totally ghosted as the buyer. I was like, oh yeah, let's get this going. You know, send me the cashier's check. We'll get it going. And he's pretty quick. He did look at the drop down and see where they were coming from, and stuff got changed, who the contacts were. It looked like it was coming from the same salesperson, but it got totally changed. And he was ready to send off a wire transfer to China that he would have saw for like 10 grand. And so it was like, it happens. So you have to be, vigilant.
Well, the scary part is it's not just emails. I know we had a TV break about a month ago, and we had the Best Buy warranty, and even that had an issue of I had to call them to get it all scheduled. First, they send out a technician to see if the TV's working or not. And then the technician texted me a phone number to call to get the warranty replaced. So I call them and you have to give them their confirmation number. And somewhere between him giving me a confirmation number, which is 16 digits, and calling 2 people directly to the Best Buy phone number they gave me, somebody in Los Angeles actually somehow got it. So whether it was a bad actor in the company selling those confirmation numbers, or somebody maybe even broke into their systems. So when we went to Best Buy to get a new TV, they're like, it looks like you already returned this in LA 3 days ago.
Whoa.
And
oh, man.
The worst part was I called them when I was at work 3 days ago. It was like, no, I was at work, and I definitely wasn't in LA. And so something as simple as that created, I think it was 2.5 hours of trouble because they weren't able to legally give us our money back since somebody already did the refund. And even something as simple as calling phone numbers could lead to chaos and things like that.
That's crazy.
That wasn't, thankfully it wasn't a huge, like, $2,000 TV. It was only a $300 TV, so they were eventually able, after me calling the numbers they gave me, so like, call this number, they have to do it. I called them and like, oh no, the person in the store has to do it. And so it's everyone's pointing fingers at each other. And
it's still the hassle. By the time you put that much time into it, yeah, it's...
And it leaves that bad taste in your mouth of, even though this store didn't do it, now you don't trust that company from something they didn't even really do.
That's crazy.
So,
sorry to get you off track there.
Oh, that's all right.
But it happens, and showing real experiences lets people know it does happen.
And that's the big thing, is a lot of people think about it as emails. They never expect it could be a phone call. It could be someone in person. So it's never a bad thing to know that it can happen in multiple ways. And then up next, we've got backing up our lives. Pretty much everyone in this day and age will have hundreds, if not thousands, of photos, maybe even social security documents, their old W-2s, any other tax documents and things that we have electronically. And sadly, more than often, I've seen people that will keep it on just one source of media, they'll just keep that one flash drive. And then once that disappears or gets broken, they're wondering what they could have done better. And so that's one big reason with IT. There's what they call a 3-2-1 rule, which is having 3 copies of your data. 2 of them can be local, but on, say, one's on this SSD, one's on this hard drive. Just so if one of those breaks, we still have a backup, and one offsite. So for offsite, it used to be having a friend have it or something like that. But now I think we've got Google and all sorts of backup companies, so you can have it online as well. But one big thing with the online backups is some malware can actually get into those as well if they're connecting directly to the system. So for me, well, the 3-2-1 is the best rule of thumb. I've kind of gone with the 4-2-1 where they'll still be the same 2 local copies, but I'll have a third one that I unplug, so it's still there, but it's not able to be accessed unless somebody has physical contact with it. And it's just one of those strange things to think about, where we have to go through all this worry for something that may never happen. And the online backup, a lot of people think we have a lot more data than we need to. Some people will look at their hard drive and see that they've got a 1 terabyte or 500 gigabyte hard drive and have to back all this up. But when you start to cut it down, you can almost always use even the Google Drive 15 gigabytes free and back up pretty much everything you need photo-wise and documents, since they take up less than a megabyte per thing, more often than not at least. And I think a lot of it's where we have so much stuff that we think we need to keep it all. So it's kind of like an electronic hoarding in a sense.
That's a nice one.
Because I know I I've even done it where, sure, I can download it again online, but with monthly data caps, some things, if they're gigabytes, we don't really want to keep re-downloading it if we're going to be using it every month or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of leads us to buying more storage and keeping everything rather than, well, I can just get this when I need it, so we can get rid of it for now. And as far as the offline backups go, there's no set standard for what they call cold storage, because some people prefer physical hard drives, some prefer SSDs. They both have their caveats where a hard drive, if you drop it, you could end up breaking the platters or the heads or making it not work anymore. But with solid state drives, there's actually a shelf life where if they're off for so many years, it may start to lose all or even some of the data on it. So it's really one of those, there's a cost-benefit ratio to it, but at the end of the day, as long as you have a couple backups, that's really the main thing. Don't keep all your childhood photos, your wedding photos, and all your important documents in one basket. Because at the end of the day, if you lose that one thing, or an even more common one would be if somebody breaks into your house and takes your laptop or your computer, there goes all of the data with it. And so that's one reason I personally, on all my computers, I'll use BitLocker with Windows. And with that, I know for Windows 10, I believe you need the Pro version to have it. And with that, what it is you can use a USB key that's on there so it'll boot up and it'll bring up a screen where you have to type in a password or put in that USB before it'll actually boot to the system. And with that, it's pretty cool since it'll actually encrypt everything on it. If somebody took out the hard drives and the SSDs and put in a new computer, it would just be garbled data that they can't pull all that information off of. And you figure if you have your W-2s or Social Security documents on there, you don't want somebody with the know-how to just steal a computer and be able to start causing havoc on your life. And for me, I go a little bit paranoid with a step further with encryption. I'll create a virtual disk, which is essentially a block of your hard drive or your SSD, and I'll use VeriCrypt to actually encrypt it there as well, which will need another password. So even if somebody somehow found your BitLocker decryption keys or the recovery keys online, there's that extra step to cause even more trouble with it. And overall, for most people, that's kind of overkill. For me, it's being an IT student, I kind of enjoy just playing around and seeing what can and can't be done. But for most people, as long as you're using something to protect your computer that's more than just a login password, it'll kind of help your data keep a bit safer, especially if somebody physically takes the device from you. And then that's pretty much all I had, besides I had a couple basic Zoom things, but I know Zoom's improved quite a bit in the last few months with it becoming a widespread device now. Because I believe before there was a huge issue with Zoom having the meets that weren't password protected, so if somebody didn't like your class, they could send the link to somebody else, or if they found it somehow, they could cause issues that way. I'm pretty sure now it even does a default password for you when you send meetings. So that's just one way to show some companies actually will start being proactive for you. That way you aren't actually able to do it. Because you can change your password, but basically some people, we're in the boat, it won't happen to us, so why should I? But since they've seen it so common, they'll actually do it. And that way you don't even realize it, but it keeps you safer, as well as the waiting room. So even with Google Meets and Zoom, or even if you had the password and the link, they'll put you in a little waiting lobby, and then the speaker or the co-host and all that can actually say if you belong or not.
I have a question. We have a few more minutes until 10 o'clock. I want to respect everyone's time, but so my son, he does online gaming. So, and he uses the tower, and he has his PS5 and all. But his tower's always on. I mean, he may go to bed, but the tower's out in the living room, so it's not in his room. So I can hear people talking in the background. He's still on a server somewhere, whatever he's playing at the time. How safe are those from people coming into his system and then maybe get into other computers that if I have a network at home and coming in through some back door on some sort of Steam or whatever platform he actually happens to be on? I've been wondering about that lately because I know they can hear what's going on in the house when I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, shut off your mic.
The big thing that I've seen is I've never really heard of anyone sneaking through Discord or Steam or things like that. But it's one of those, there can always be what they call a 0 day of something that's unknown to the people that make the software. Most of them are pretty good about segregating how they do these things. But if somebody's able to spend enough time and they can actually figure out that somehow Discord isn't fully set correctly, or if it's not updated enough, there may be a vulnerability where, since you're in just a chat room, if somehow that lets them know who's all in there, there is always a chance to sneak in through back doors. And really the key thing for that would be keeping everything up to date would be the best thing. Because you'll probably notice, especially with Discord, it updates what seems like every half a day. And that's just minor bug fixes, patching vulnerabilities, or even just basic quality of life upgrades. I know for PS or the console systems, it's a little worse. People are able to do what they call booting people offline. And what that is they'll figure out what port number is used with the gaming system. Say it was port 148, just as a random number. They'll figure out all their connections from there. And what they can actually do is start to figure out who all is connected. And say there's this one guy you really don't like, you'll figure out, okay, he's in this group of 8, we'll go to another game with him. Now there's only one person from that previous group, and then you may have their IP address if it's not well protected. And then they're able to figure out, yeah, you could do something as innocent of booting them offline where they just have to restart their router and fix the issue. Or if it's somebody that really just has a grudge, they may be able to start trying to hack into the system.
I just had that weird feeling when people are looking in with the cameras on, or I'm like, hey, if you're not online, I mean, if you're not in the game, like, shut it down. You know, it's just
exactly.
Someone has a window and a microphone into our house about what's going on. If we're arguing, it's like, shut it down at night. Well, and it just sucks up the bandwidth all, you know. Luckily, I have a business account, so I don't have a cap, But
see, that's a great thing right there is the privacy of them being able to hear you. Because for all you know, his headset could be on. Hopefully he's got push to talk or something like that. But they may be able to hear you or see inside the house. Or worst case, you might be hearing something going on with them. And it's just one of those, it's an invasion of privacy even if people don't really think it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm in the boat of, well, I know most webcams now have those activity lights. I remember a few years back there was even ways around it where larger companies or 3-letter places like the NSA were actually able to get into webcams and not activate those lights because it was a software-based thing instead of hardware. So your webcam would look like it's off, but they could actually be recording.
So I got a nice little screen cover on mine.
Well, that's why I'm happy that most of them now seem to be coming with the screen covers. And it's one of those, for that $2 or that 2-cent piece of plastic, it's a peace of mind.
Oh, yeah.
But here's another one for you is, if his headset's on and you're nearby, what if you're reading out your credit card number because you're buying something online, you're paying a Comcast bill and you have to type it in and read it aloud. There's just it's better to spend that 2 seconds to turn off the computer and just turn it on again.
Oh yeah.
Especially nowadays, I know with me the problem is computers are so quick I can't even go get a drink of water before it's all the way turned on.
I wish I had my laptop so that quick. I've got to do a lot of cleaning on my startups. But
it's kind of funny because since I use BitLocker, when it turns on, if you don't type in the password within normally 30 seconds, it'll turn itself off, so that causes trouble as well.
You're like, oh, what's going? Damn it!
I know. I walk away. It's already back off.
All right, Zach. I want to say thank you for your time today. You're very very generous with your information, and that's not maybe always what we want with cybersecurity, but it is something we need. Is to someone to just speak plainly to us, go over some nice bullet points. It wasn't too confusing. You stayed on topic, and that's what makes a nice little webinar or sharing about a topic or an idea worthwhile and listening to. So you had myself engaged, and hopefully we'll be able to share this and share just some tidbits that'll help somebody else think about what they're doing. Backing up their computers, the 3-2-1 rule, doing the passwords, adding 2 extra characters. These are just things that I wrote down that I know I'm going to implement on myself. And electronic hoarding. Think about what you're downloading, and do you really need it? Is it something that needs to be backed up? So there's I had gotten a lot of good little tidbits out of there, some nuggets. So thank you for your time. And thank you everyone for showing up today and spending some time out of your ordinary day. I know it's Friday. I know webinars and Zoom meetings are just going off the wall lately. So I really do appreciate your time. And Zach, I wish you all the best in your future in cybersecurity and IT work. Thank you to Edward Miro at Butte College for suggesting you and being part of our tech community in Northern California. So thank everybody for your time. Remember, go out and be awesome today. Have a great weekend and stay safe online. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Exit.